Well, hello there, everyone. My name is Stephanie Gordon. I am the Vice President for Professional Development at NASPA. I am excited to talk with you today about how to be a reviewer for the 2020 NASPA Annual Conference. We have a lot of information to share with you today, but it will also be a wonderful opportunity to ask some questions and note how we can help you in learning how to be a good reviewer for the conference.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Pina. Like Jace mentioned earlier, I serve as the 2020 chair for the conference. My day job is the Vice President of Student Affairs at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. So thank you for joining us today.
Great. All right, so we'll just get started. So today's briefing, we're going to talk through the 2020 conference itself, and we'll talk about the focus areas, the guiding principles, the types of programs, and also the effective proposals that you'll want to be thinking about when you get into your review. We'll talk a little bit about Austin, Texas, how to apply to be a reviewer, what it means to be giving review feedback and typing in our system in order to give feedback to our presenters, and then the timeline about the online process itself.
So as you know by now, we're going to be in Austin, Texas for the 2020 conference. Very exciting. We will not only spend time in downtown Austin, but we will also embrace the local area to engage with our members in Texas, stand up for social justice issues in the state, and truly engage with a city that is unique and weird. The slogan, "Keep Austin Weird," is focused on small businesses and eclectic neighborhoods that make up the city. We are thankful that you guys signed up or are going to sign up to be a reviewer to assist us in selecting the programs for this upcoming conference. The buzzwords these days on our campuses is all about student success. And this year's committee is looking at how can we do this across the university. As student affairs professionals, we must be innovative in our design of cross-divisional approaches that contribute to student success. We are also focusing on collaboration and partnerships so that we can make the student experience a seamless one.
So as we all know, the third topic here is advocacy and activism. These are two sides of the same coin. Student affairs educators are often the individuals on the front lines of student activism, and we need to discuss how both to be supportive of our students while serving as institutional leaders. And finally, one of the last topics is that it's time to redefine and realign our student affairs profession. As the field and its leadership diversifies generationally, demographically, and functionally, tensions exist between the existing narratives and the lived experiences of some student affairs professionals. We must continue to evolve and investigate how the demographics of students who enroll on our campuses changes the ways that we evolve and realign the student affairs profession and how we do our work. So before reading your programs, it'll be really important for you to visit the conference website so you can read the questions that will be asked of each of you for each program submission. The focus areas that we just talked about are really outlined here with a bunch of questions that says what the conference leadership committee is looking for each of the programs itself. So it'll be important for you to visit the conference.naspa.org program call for programs to read all about it.
In addition to the areas of focus and questions that Stephanie just mentioned, we will also want to make sure to select guiding principles for programs that are submitted. NASPA has guiding principles that also will help to segment the program submissions in our review process. We would like to ask you to review whether or not the program fits the selected principles that you see above. These guiding principles offer an overarching view of what the program can provide to the conference experience.
Along with the guiding principles, we ask that every presenter select one or two professional competencies which match the content. Each one of these competencies has a foundational, intermediate, and advanced button that can also be selected. When you apply to be a reviewer, you're going to actually select the professional competencies of which you are an expert and in which area, foundational, intermediate, or advanced, that you feel like you fall and fit into for the professional competencies. If you aren't familiar with the professional competencies, I suggest that you take some time to read them so you can become familiar before you do the review process.
There are several types of programs that we'll want you to help us decide upon. Let me go through them very quickly. There's pre-conference workshops. These take place on Saturday and Sunday. They are the half day or full day in length. They are an extra fee for participants, and your program content needs to make sure we see a lot of interactivity and takeaways. Review for this type of program will be due September 16th, so be sure you have time in your schedule to review those if you sign up for pre-conferences. The second type is poster sessions. These are opportunities that showcase a visual representation of data, programming, or original research that allows participants to have one-on-one conversations with the author or researcher. The third type is general interest sessions. These are the traditional sessions at the conference, 50 minutes in length, and should cover one of the focus area questions we talked about previously. The fourth is constituent group sponsored sessions. These are traditional sessions, but you could volunteer to review for one of the many constituent groups if you have expertise in a particular KC, knowledge community, or division group. Each NASPA division or KC has the opportunity to sponsor a few programs during the conference, and you can help them select those programs. The fifth type is referred to as SA Speaks. If you like, these are our version of TED Talks. You like to review, the process of reviewing a video submission from our participants, as well as some written information. The final type of program are scholarly papers. This review is only for those with doctorates or faculty status. Sign up to review scholarly papers if you have an interest in reading proposals for original research. So that's it. Those are the program types. So now, Stephanie, let's get into how you actually apply and how one can be an effective reviewer.
Great. So in order to be an effective reviewer, you need to know how to see what you understand as an effective proposal. So as we mentioned, the guiding principles, the content of the proposal itself, that someone has adhered to the submission guidelines. There are directions on how to submit for a program, that they actually have written a really well-crafted content area for their abstract or for their program and description, and that there's lots of different perspectives from multiple different institutions and a diversity of individuals who are presenting that particular topical area. It's important that you understand that the effective proposal process is really important to the review process, because if there's not an effective proposal, you can actually say that this program has not met those particular requirements of the program itself.
Program titles and abstracts should be short, concise, but the program outline description is where the evaluation really happens. The description should address the program format. Will it be a lecture, a panel, a debate? What are the goals of this presentation, and what is the evidence that the program works? Data, research, a specific model or theory. It should share how the conference participants are involved. Is it a discussion? Will there be small groups? Is it a case study analysis? And finally, there should be information about the time spent on various activities. For example, outlining that an introduction will be 5 minutes, an icebreaker may be an additional 5, a review of data could be 20 minutes, a discussion 20 minutes, etc. It is really nice to have varied perspectives and presenters on a session if the content really calls for it. Each general interest or constituent sponsor session can have up to 8 presenters. SA Speaks or narratives and scholarly paper sessions are a little different. Scholarly papers, while manuscripts may have multiple authors, time constraints require that a single individual presents the paper. So why are you here? Why should you spend your time reviewing programs for this conference? Well, let me tell you a few reasons. It helps coordinate presenters to improve their program, applying expertise to help others. It really enables us to give them feedback to make sure we're putting our best foot forward as an association to provide professional development for our colleagues. It helps us assist in maintaining the rigorous peer review process that will help the conference leadership committee select the best content for the 2020 conference. We also maintain awareness of new and emerging promising practices, research, and engagement in student affairs. There's so much that we're doing across this country. We need all of you to help us look at what submissions are and which should be presented at the 2020 conference. The review process can be considered a conversation between the author, the reviewer, you, and the conference committee to determine if the program should be included, how it may be improved, and what impact it can have on the participants at the conference. Peer review is a matter of subjective opinion combined with lived experiences. You are being asked to give your expert opinion about the quality of a program's content. During this process, you want to make sure that you have a few pieces in place for each review.
So in that process, you want to make sure that you've read your professional competencies information, you've read all the questions that the conference leadership committee has outlined in order for you to understand what we are really looking for in the process itself. Understand the program types that you've actually signed up to read, because they're all the program types that Jason talked about are really important in the process of deciding whether or not the content is robust enough for a pre-conference workshop that's 3 hours or 4 hours long, or that it's good enough for a 50-minute session, or that essay speak session is really inspirational and you want it to be added into the conference. So you want to make sure you have all those pieces ready, and then you sign up for the reviewer process. So we review and match people based on their content areas, their information, their expertise, and then we make sure that you are reviewing the program types that you've decided upon. So as mentioned earlier, the program pre-con review process is a shorter process. It happens between September 16th and September 6th and September 16th, because we want to get our pre-cons listed by October 1st. So if you sign up to be a pre-con reviewer, just know that that's a shorter process to review those programs. The review process for the regular programs, all of the other program types that Jason talked about are from September 13th to September 30th. Each reviewer will receive anywhere between 7 and 9 programs to review. Occasionally, we have some superstar reviewers who volunteer to add more conference proposals to their profiles because they're really good at reviewing, and they add additional reviews to that. So if you are one of those people, we look forward to chatting with you at the end of September so that we could add some more to your programs. So a reminder is that you can also both review programs and you can submit programs.
But you can't review the programs you submit, so don't try it.
That's true.
So this is an entire online process. It's a really easy way to get engaged nationally and with NASPA. And here's a few specifics about the review process. Each program is reviewed a minimum of 5 to 6 times by those of us who sign up to be reviewers. Every program type has a different set of questions. So those 6 program types I went over earlier, they all have different questions that you'll be asked to apply to their application. Reviewers' comments will be shared with coordinated presenters with no identifying information. This is a single blind review. So I will talk about this a little bit later, but let me just say now it's really important that you give them some qualitative feedback on your sense of their submission so they can learn from that submission. Every reviewer will be asked to make a final assessment, accept with improvements, or reject. Presenters do not see this, just the conference leadership committee.
Great, thanks. So here's how you actually do this process. So how you get started is to go to the NASPA Annual Conference homepage, and you'll see 2 buttons on the homepage. One will be to submit your program, and the other one will be to apply to be a reviewer. So when you click on that, you'll get to our reviewer profile page. Again, as a reminder, you can submit a program as well as review a program, and as Jason said, we won't assign you your own program to review. So once you log in, you'll come to a page that looks like this. You'll actually have a place where you update your reviewer application, which basically brings you to a page that says reviewer profile. And down here is where it says content area, target group selections. And as you scroll down, you'll see all different other things to check. So content area are at least 4 different areas that you feel like you are an expert in. An important part of this reviewer profile is that you're not just saying content areas that you're interested in, you're actually saying content areas that you are an expert in. It's a nuanced situation, but we don't want you just reading programs that you're interested in learning about. We want programs that you reviewing programs that you have experience in. Either you've worked in fraternity and sorority life and you want to review programs about fraternity and sorority life, or you're working diligently in assessment, evaluation, and research. So make sure you pick content areas that you have had experience in, or that you connect to, whether it's at a type of institution. So if you're a community college person, or you, you work at a large institution, you will fill out this reviewer profile based on your expertise. There's also a section for the professional competencies where you will select which of 2 professional competencies you are at and what level underneath you are at in them. So for example, if you are really good at advising and supporting students, you have a counseling background, you are an advisor, an academic advisor, and you are intermediate where you do a lot of work within this area, or you are advanced, make sure you check those boxes because we'll match you with programs that are based on those content areas themselves. So then you'll go on to this next page where you'll pick the program types that you're interested in reviewing. There are lots of different program types. As Jason mentioned, there are 6 of them. You'll want to click the little radio button as to what session formats you would like to review, and you can review more than one type of program itself. So make sure that you check off the ones that you'd be interested in. If you have interest in reviewing for a knowledge community or a division, you can select that group, and then it will automatically put you into the review category to review for that sponsored programs session. If you don't want to do knowledge communities or divisions, you can review for poster sessions or scholarly papers, general interest sessions, etc. So you want to make sure that you select which program types you want to actually review. So finally, as a reminder, you will receive your assigned programs. If it's not pre-conference workshops, you'll receive them on September 13th or earlier, like I said, for pre-cons. Every program has a different set of questions. You will, in that email, it will show a set of ranking selections for each question. Each question is weighted based on agree, strongly disagree, or agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. And these weights will help us determine a score for each one of our programs. Under each question, there are content boxes for written comments. This part is really important. As a reviewer, it's very, very important that you put actual qualitative comments, well-written comments, in those boxes and not just put NA or put a dot in order to complete your review. Every reviewer will be, as Jason mentioned earlier, be asked to make a final assessment, accept with improvements, or reject. That will be an opportunity for you to make your recommendation to the conference leadership committee. As mentioned, there will be 6 to 9 people on every single program, so the conference leadership committee will get a broad sense of what someone thinks about each one of these programs. Jason, is there anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think I'd just like to emphasize a point we made earlier about the conversation among the reviewer, those of you on this webinar, people submitting their programs for proposals, and the conference leadership committee. The information you put in those content boxes helps us really select a diversity and quality of programs. We have nearly 2,000 submissions that will be reviewed multiple times, at 5+ times. So there's many thousands of reviews we'll be going through. And we accept in the neighborhood of 700 total programs. So when you really think about that, there's many professionals that submit program proposals that have content that's high quality, that would add to the discussions in Austin or wherever the conference would be held, that we don't have room for. So it's really important that you take the time to put some comments into those content boxes to help us make those tough selections as we go from nearly 2,000 to 700 different programs, papers, and poster presentations.
Great, thanks. It's also really important as you think about what this presenter is receiving. Jason mentioned that each one of the presenters will receive their reviewer comments, and so it's important that they understand why the program either was accepted and needed some assistance, or that it was rejected and there might be some reasons why the program wasn't actually accepted. So to be more specific about having effective reviews, you want to make sure that you're very clear in both the selection process of strongly agree, etc., as well as in the content areas, be very specific as to what the challenges or wonderful things are about the program itself. You need to be balanced and fair and professional and provide actionable items within that description. And ultimately, it needs to be well written.
And around specificity and being detail oriented, this is why it's also important for you to do a little bit of reflection around your level of competencies within the NASPA ACPA competencies in terms of your levels, and have an expectation of yourself that if you feel like you're advanced around assessment and research, and there is comments to be given back to the program proposal writer around specificity, then lean on your expertise and give them as good a content as you can around what you mean by being more specific around a particular program piece, positive, neutral, or negative, just so you can give them that feedback. In addition, around detail-oriented, also leaning on your lived experiences would really be helpful in this, because in many cases, the last few years have taught me that we will accept program proposals to be presented at the national conference that, with a few tweaks that come from feedback from all of you, enable us to have these presenters take their presentations to the next level. So being detail-oriented around what you offer as feedback oftentimes could help our presenters take these programs to the next level. So it's really important that you're thoughtful around how do I give them some detail feedback that will be helpful to the presenters.
Definitely the specificity is key, not to just say, I don't like it, period, and submit your review, but more specific on this program needs an additional content expertise, research, etc., in order to be relevant to the conference. So exactly what Jason was saying. So as we get into the professional part of this, we're just going to break it down a little bit more. Obviously, if you're reviewing the program, you don't want to write something like this program stinks. And unfortunately, I know this seems silly, but there are times when people write really inappropriate things, and we actually flag those reviewers and don't ask them to come back the next year. So it's important for you to be very professional in this process. Instead of saying this program stinks, hopefully you'll say something like the content in this program needs further explanation in order for it to be relevant to the intended audiences. It provides a little more specificity and is also very professional. You want to make sure that you think about whatever you're writing within this program review. Would you want to receive your review? There's never a cause to be rude or nasty in a review, and you can't make assumptions about the people who are actually presenting these programs. It's important to make sure that you review the information thoroughly, you leave enough time to review a conference proposal, and that if you have questions about it, you state that in those content areas themselves.
This interaction between you and a program proposal submitter is ultimately an educational process. So when we talk about how do you engage in this learning, for the boxes you check that you have a level of expertise in, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person submitting a program proposal in that area has the same level of expertise. So your ability to say to them that there may be studies from particular authors that might be helpful with this content, or that there are some studies that are more up to date that would be helpful to add some nuance to what they're trying to do, is really a helpful piece versus saying something about the content isn't new and that presenters need to do more research. So understanding this give and take when you have a reaction because your level of knowledge of a particular topic, to be able to lean into that conversation virtually with that program submitter. The other part of it is pointing them in a direction. Whether you check the box off that you should accept it, accept with revisions, or not accept it, you also have the ability to point them in the right direction. Like we said earlier, several people will review every program proposal. You certainly have the ability to say that you would reject it. You may be in a minority in that opinion of the people reviewing it. So even taking seriously that, let me offer you a direction you may want to think about that will be more effective than you using those 50 minutes, would help out programs that will ultimately be given opportunity to be presented upon in 2020.
Like everything, we are continual learners in this profession. We must provide specific information to help improve the program. but also take the time to add well-written information so that we can respect the process. We're scholar practitioners and reviewers represent both themselves and the association, so please make sure you're adding specific information to the comment section and not just selecting rankings. You want to make sure you're asking some questions of yourself before you submit this review. Do you believe in the program content? Do you think that it's well written? Can you help the authors improve the content? Would you want to go to this session, or would you want to receive the review that you write? So hopefully you think about those things before you head into submitting your program review. An important part of this also is that you can go back in and edit your review after you've submitted it, but you also want to make sure that you do it as in a timely fashion. You will get some reminders, but it's important that you pay attention to the online process itself.
So before we transition to opening up the webinar for questions, I just want to take one more moment to review the process that will be going out. Call for reviewers is out right now. You can log in like Stephanie walked you through and sign up to do that. Filling out the online questionnaire, looking for the match program and reviewer interest is important for us to be able to match you all up. Like Stephanie had mentioned earlier, the pre-con review is an online review over the course of 10 days. The reason why that is that we have to thumbs up and thumb down the pre-cons prior to opening it up for our members to sign up for in early October. So we want to make sure we get all those reviews done within those 10 days. The program review process for the other several hundred that are submitted begins September 13th, which is approximately 10 days from the deadline of submitting their proposals, and will end September 30th. That gives us approximately 3 weeks for folks to do the review, and the reviews will be done by 7 to 9 people over that period of time, which the folks at NASPA will be monitoring it. So that's, Stephanie had mentioned a few slides ago that there's a possibility that many of you may want to do more than you're initially assigned, or we may reach out to you and ask you for your willingness to review more. And if you do get that inclination, we encourage you to take part in that and give back more to the profession. And the final reminder is that while this call specifically is focused on you as a reviewer, you also can submit. We encourage you to submit on all types of topics. We strive hard to make sure that those 700 programs offered to our members are diverse among different competencies, levels of engagements, types of engagements, as well as length of time. So I think we offer our association a great many ways to express how they're serving our students in higher education in better ways every year. So with that, I'd offer an opportunity for Jace or Stephanie to look at what kind of questions we may have that we can answer for you before we can conclude.
I'm not sure we have any questions. We did such a good job.
Look at that. We're pros.
All right. Well, our emails are on the screen, so if you have any questions about being a reviewer, please feel free to give us a shout out, and we will be happy to answer any questions for you. But we do hope that all of you on the call, as well as those who might be listening into the recording, that you would be willing to review, because it takes a lot of folks to review those nearly 2,000 programs that are submitted for the conference. So we need all of you for that process, and we're so glad that you joined us for today. So have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you on the review process.
Bye, everyone. Have a fantastic afternoon and evening.